Hey everyone, thought I would chime in with this conversation of health communication. How many of you have ever went to WebMD or Mayo Clinic and looked up symptoms for a disease that you think you have? Hopefully no one, and I hope this didn't encourage you to do it either, because that is very, I don't want to use the term bad, because sometimes it's helpful. But a lot of the topic of our conversation around health communication is that we might have preconceived notions as to what might be the issue with us. We type in a symptom when we go on these websites, and it provides us with information. Okay. Now, what we do with that information is ultimately the most important component of what we talk about with health communication. Because communication technologies give us a platform to view this information, so it gives us a high degree of access to information. It has never been higher. We can go and look up a variety of topics, variety of health interests. We can go to Yahoo Answers to find out too if we want. What is this weird mole on my back? Right, we can do that. However, the literacy or the understanding of that information, being able to use it in a proper way, has not matched the access that we have. So think about this from a perspective of we have two variables: access, which is all-time high, and literacy, using the information in an appropriate way, is lagging far behind. Because there's a reason people go to medical school. I don't think any of you, I could be wrong, have an MD. I talk about this frequently. If you're a basketball fan, people with Jabari Barker, if you are a Milwaukee Bucks fan, I'll bring it Wisconsin, or if you're a Bulls fan, Derrick Rose. People talk about these ideas of, oh, this person has hurt their knee, they tore the ACL in their knee, their career is over, it's terrible. And I frequently, because I actually hurt my ACL and MCL, I frequently have these conversations with people online, very trollistic, and I say, listen, you're not a doctor, you haven't sustained an injury, all you really know is what you think is the appropriate response to all of this. And sometimes people are right. Sometimes people are accurate. They say this injury sounds bad, or this health concern is very terrible. We need to do something about it. I think the most common example now is the conversations around vaccine or being anti-vaccine. A lot of people have come out using social media and have talked about, I'm either pro-vaccine or I'm against vaccine, and I won't touch my personal opinions on that, but there's a lot of controversy because for a lot of these topics we can be pro topic X and pro topic Y. We could be pro veganism, but it might not be the same degree of conversation in terms of animosity or conflict, because these are very, very touchy subjects, for a lot of people to talk about, right? So again, the access that we have is great. We can look up anything and everything. But what we do with that information is usually not the best, okay? And if we think about this, communication technologies provide us with an opportunity to talk to people from across the globe, okay? There's 7 billion people in the world. We have the opportunity to talk to people across the world who might be dealing with some illnesses or rare conditions that only ourselves might have. So think about if you're from a small town in, let's say, Nebraska, and there are 30 people in your town, and you have a very rare illness. Well, the likelihood of anyone around you having knowledge of that illness or what the toll is it takes on you physically, spiritually, mentally, okay, that's very low. But with communication technologies, we can go online and we can go on a support group. We can go on a subreddit that talks about people with eating disorders, for instance. My biggest fear, my headset died as I was talking. Okay, we won't start over. We'll just keep it going. I was talking about eating disorders. So let's talk about that, right? If we have rare conditions, we have the opportunity to go online and use communication technologies as a platform to talk with people. I don't know how to deal with my depression. I can go on the subreddit depression and find out what people are doing to cope with their depression. There are a variety of resources online to help us find people that are dealing with similar circumstances. And yes, as we're talking about the subject of health communication, we have this with a variety of other topics that aren't quite in that criteria. For instance, if you need help with a personal situation, maybe a romantic relationship is going south, not quite the criteria of health communication, but again, we can see that communication technologies give us the opportunity, opens the gates for us to have these conversations. But unfortunately, as we talk about this information, the literacy that we have is not as potent. So think about, there are websites online that are pro eating disorder. Okay, so there are communities online. If you are anorexic, for instance, the websites escape me. One of my colleagues is not going to be pleased with this because that's their line of research. But there are websites for people that are pro-anorexic, pro-bulimic, that instead of providing, well, they do provide social support, let me correct myself, but not in the way that we would anticipate that to be. So what happens is people will go onto these websites who are pro-anorexia, for instance, and they will give each other tips as to how to reduce hunger cravings and how to perform certain behaviors to not eat as frequently as your body essentially is telling you to eat. So on the one hand, we have these avenues where people can learn and people can benefit from these online tools. But like most things when it comes to the internet, well, life really, there is a negative use for that. We can go on a website and say, hey, I'm dealing with depression, and someone can immediately comment and say, hey, you should kill yourself. Or if you're struggling with your weight and someone comes in and starts to call you fat or other degrading terms. That is not what it is designed for, but we have to have safeguards in place to protect ourselves, to make sure that as we are dealing with these different life events, these health concerns, that we are taking everything with a grain of salt. In reality, we're actually really empowered by technology. We're empowered by communication technologies because we as a patient have some sort of ownership over this information. If you are dealing with a weight issue, one option is to, hey, let's go to the doctor. Let's see what him or her has to say about how we should handle this. Or what you can do is you can use the internet as that resource. Now, one of them is legally certified and bound to their career path, and the other one is usually anecdotal. People don't have the same degree of control or responsibility for that. They can only make suggestions. They're non-professional suggestions. They're just comments that people can make. And like a website like WebMD, for instance, is a for-profit website. If you see the ads on the right-hand side of the website or the banner, those are all for-profit ads. And so what happens is, in essence, WebMD takes that information that they receive from the users, from the pay-per-click and things like that, and they sell that information to a variety of people so that they can help retargeted ads. If anyone's into digital media marketing and things like that, that's essentially what happens. So certainly there are restrictions with that. Some people argue that they are taking advantage of people in unfortunate health situations, but realistically, we have to be very conscious of what it is that we are doing. If we have a rare disease, the internet provides us with the opportunity to connect with people. If we're dealing with issues of health in terms of, we feel very poorly about the perception of our appearance, we can go online and we can find people who will bolster our self-esteem. All of that's great. But on the other end of it, there is also the possibility that we run each time that people can use those tools in a negative way. Okay? People want to maintain some degree of anonymity or be unidentifiable. They want to be safe on the internet. However, we'll talk about that next week in terms of privacy and being close and saved with all that information. But until then, hopefully this little conversation of health communication has been beneficial. Sorry for the headset dying. But other than that, I'll talk to you soon.